Hello, how's it going? I'm Ryan Mosser. This is the Commissioner's Couch podcast. Come on in, take a seat, and let's talk some fantasy football. Um, Usually, I have my co-host, one of my best friends, David Cahoon, with me. Unfortunately, he is dealing with a family emergency tonight, so he will not be with me. Prayers up to him and his family. I won't go any further. Just maybe he'll talk about it later, but I'm not going to. So I'm solo today. This is the Commissioner's Couch podcast. Please follow us at Commish Couch on Twitter and Commissioner's Couch on YouTube and Facebook as well. This is sponsored by the Inside Edge Network and LVP Productions, and also Monster Moments Photography.com. They're a husband and wife photography team, Cleveland based, who specialize in weddings. It's my wife and I's business. We've been doing it for 8 years. Really good at it. Check us out at Monster Moments Photography.com, MOSSOR Moments Photography.com. All right, yeah, let's get into it. First things first, talk about the buys for this week. The Browns, the Jets, the Eagles, and the Buccaneers are on buys. So obviously do not start those players on those teams. Clearly. Going into injuries, there's a lot this week. There's a lot popping up today. I might have got a couple of them, missed a couple of them, but these are the majority of them. Lamar Jackson is going to play. That's a huge thing for Lamar owners. Tua is a full participant in practice. Jaden Daniels is questionable, was expected to practice today. Joe Flacco is questionable with a shoulder injury. Mac Jones, questionable with a knee injury. J.J. McCarthy, questionable with ankle injury. Kyler Murray, questionable with a foot injury. He seems like he's going to be playing. Sorry, I'm also fighting a cold right now, so excuse me. Michael Penix, questionable with a knee injury. Brock Purdy, questionable with that toe injury. Carson Wentz is on IR, going to be out for the year with a shoulder injury. Saquon Barkley, Eagles are on bye, but he is dealing with a groin injury, so that's something to monitor going into next week. Trey Benson is still in IR, but only has 1 week left, so monitor that as well. Isaiah Pacheco is questionable with a knee injury. Ty Chandler, Vikings running back, on IR with a knee injury. Cam Skattebo, we all saw that really, really unfortunate incident there with his ankle. He's out 3 to 6 months, consider him probably out for the rest of the season. Tutu Atwell, IR hamstring. A.J. Brown is on a bye, but he's dealing with a hamstring injury as well, so monitor that. Malik Washington was a full participant in practice today. Puka Nacua, questionable, but did return to practice today, so definitely watch him because, he was the wide receiver one going into his injury, so Luther Burden is questionable with a concussion. Nico Collins also questionable with a concussion. Christian Kirk questionable with a hamstring injury. Terry McLaurin, quadriceps. He's out today. It was announced that he re-aggravated his injury. He's probably going to be out for a while. That's just really unfortunate there for the Commanders. Tony Pollard questionable with a neck injury. Jacoby Myers questionable with a knee. Calvin Ridley questionable hamstring. Garrett Wilson is questionable with a knee injury. Brock Bowers questionable with a knee and PCL. And then Mike Gesicki and Darren Waller both on an IR there. There could be more. And also, today's Wednesday. Obviously, we try to get this out before Thursday Night Football. So, just grain of salt there because there's going to be a few more practices before games on Sunday as well there. So, all right. Going into our first segment for the day, this is one we like to call Hunks and Skunks. Basically, we just like to pick a player who we think is going to be really, really good this week or two, and then pick a player or two who are we think will not do well this week. Last week, my hunks, I picked Jonathan Taylor. He was 12 rushes for 153 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 catches for 21 yards, and a receiving touchdown, had almost 40 fantasy points. Clearly a hunk. It's a no-brainer there. Obviously, he's the running back one for a reason. And then also my other hunk for last week was Jamar Chase. 12 catches on 19 targets from Joe Flacco, 91 yards, a nice 21 fantasy points there as well. So clearly was a great hunk for that week. And then last week, my Sunks actually didn't do – I don't know. I picked Kareem Hunt for last week, and that kind of blew up in my face. He had a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown. He only did have 9 rushes for 40 yards and then 1 catch for 2 yards for a receiving touchdown. So, my concern there was with obviously the snap percentage with Brashard Smith and then obviously Isaiah Pacheco there as well. It's not sustainable, I don't think. So I still stand on that. Obviously, he scored over 17 fantasy points last week, so that was a good start, which I advise not to start him. But nonetheless, it's just every week it could be a different one of those running backs for sure. And then my other skunk for last week was Caleb Williams, 25 of 38 for 285 yards and an interception, 3 rushes for 24 yards, only 13 fantasy points. I think that was pretty much skunky. So, all right, going into my this week for hunks. Excuse me. My first hunk is Devin Achane. He is the running back for the Dolphins, obviously. Last week against the Falcons, 18 rushes for 67 yards, 5 catches for 24 yards, a receiving touchdown, had 20 fantasy points, very serviceable. The Falcons are a top defense in the NFL, and he was still able to score over 20 fantasy points. That's definitely a win. This week, the Dolphins play the Ravens. Do I say more? The Ravens have one of the worst defenses in 2025, ranking 28th overall. They also allow an average of 128.9 rushing yards per game and 10 total rushing touchdowns this season. Devin Achane on the Dolphins is like owning a Ferrari in a trailer park. Achane is currently the RB3 in all of fantasy. He's rushed 170 times for 539 yards, 3 touchdowns, 37 catches for 235 yards and 4 receiving touchdowns, 156.4 fantasy points so far this season on Sleeper. That's incredible. Very, very good for definitely a smaller back too in an offense and just a team in general that is very questionable for sure how they're sticking together there. So, the rest of the Dolphins' schedule isn't that bad going into the second half of the season either. They play the Ravens, the Bills, Commanders, Saints, Jets, Steelers, Bengals, Buccaneers, and Patriots. Achane has already put up 26.2 fantasy points against the Patriots, 16.10 points against the Bills, and 17 points against the Jets for the first half of the year. And those are 3 more teams that they will have to play again. As long as he stays healthy, I would definitely say that Achane is a part of the Dolphins offense that's working. He's pretty much the only thing that's working right now. He's a hunk for sure for the rest of the season. Trade worthy. All right, sorry. Jason Kirk on Twitter tweeted said trade worthy for McLaurin. TI standard. Obviously he's asking to trade if I would trade Xavier Worthy for Terry McLaurin. McLaurin right now probably not. He just re-aggravated that quadricep injury. I would stay clear right now. He's definitely been out quite a few of games. Let me look up his stats real quick. He's missed 4 games already. And then, like I said, he played last week, did okay, 14 points, but then he just re-aggravated his injury, and now he's going to be questionable and no timeable return. So I probably wouldn't do that. Worthy's still a really good – you're no problem, Jason. Worthy's still a really good player on a really good offense. Yes, Rashee Rice has taken control of the wide receiver 1, but that was to be expected. Worthy's still very, very good, serviceable wide receiver 2. I would hold on to him, especially with the concerns with Terry McLaurin. Going in, again, my second hunk. So I have 2 hunks this week. Actually talking about a Chiefs receiver, Rashee Rice, last week against the Commanders, 9 catches on 9 targets for 93 yards and a touchdown, 25.5 fantasy points. He's clearly only played 2 games with the 6-week suspension, but he's been electric, absolutely electric. 16 catches on 19 targets for 135 yards, 3 touchdowns, almost 50 fantasy points. Those are really, really, really incredible numbers, especially for just 2 games. He's already clearly the wide receiver 1 for the Chiefs. I think Tyquan Thornton's been thrown to the wayside, which is sad. I really like him, and I was rooting for him. But that's pretty remarkable. Knowing that until last week he didn't play a game since week 4 of 2024 because he got that, that really bad injury with the collision with Kelsey as well. So he hasn't really played in over a year, and he's been, doing well the first 2 games. This week, the Chiefs play the Bills, who have the second best passing defense in the NFL, allowing 161.9 passing yards a game and only 7 passing touchdowns. So about 1 per game, a little less than 1. Honestly, I don't give a crap, though. I don't care at all. Rashee, has picked up right where he left off, from early last season, which is crazy to think that it's been a whole year. Sometimes there's a bit of trepidation when it comes to players who haven't taken a significant amount of time off. Usually it takes them a while to get acclimated back to speed in the NFL and rebuild the chemistry of the team. But, it's just shown that, Rashee Rice, that hasn't affected him at all. He's ready to go immediately. The Patrick Mahomes, the Rashee Rice connection is special. I think that'll continue to look special this week. That's why I think Rashee Rice is going to be a hunk this week for sure. All right. Going on to my skunks for this week. So hunks were the players that I like. Skunks are the players that I do not like for this week. Excuse me. All right, my first skunk for this week, Ramondre Stevenson, running back for the Patriots. Last week against the Browns, he had a 74% snap count percentage. 14 rushes for 34 yards, one catch for 15 yards. Unfortunately, that game could have been the breakout. That game was the breakout game for rookie TreVeyon Henderson. Henderson only had a 21% snap count or percentage, but was able to record 10 rushes for 75 yards. That's really good. Only 21%. He's clearly already, shown that he is a serviceable back. Still a little nervous with his, his pass blocking. And going into the draft, he was the best in the, coming in as a rookie, but then he's just really, really struggled with that. Hopefully he gets things going here. It's only a matter of time before Stevenson is demoted to the running back 2 for the team. They use a really early second-round pick on Henderson, and if Henderson continues to produce like he did last week, it will happen very soon. This week, the Patriots play the Falcons. As I said earlier with Devin Etienne, the Falcons have a top defense in the NFL. They also have only allowed an average of 126.4 rushing yards per game. And on top of it, Stevenson has been questionable this week with the toe injury as well. And to stack on that, the Patriots are rumored to be buyers at the trade deadline for running backs. That mixed with Henderson's, breathing down his neck. And I just think it's going to be bad news for the 29th ranked running back in the NFL right now in Ramondre Stevenson. He's going to be my first skunk. And then my second skunk is, excuse me, running back from the Commanders, Bill Krosky-Merritt, Jacory Krosky-Merritt. Last week against the Chiefs, 9 rushes for 25 yards, only 2.5 fantasy points. It seems like the hype for Bill. It's faded for sure. Honestly, he's only had 2.5 subjectively good games so far this season. Week 1 against the Giants, he put up 14.7 fantasy points. Week 3 against the Raiders, he put up 10. And then week 5 against the Chargers, he had his big game. He had put up 28 points. He's still ranked 31st overall for running backs in fantasy after 8 weeks in the season. The last 3 weeks is what's concerning to me. Week 6 versus the Bears, 17 rushes for 61 yards, 1 catch for 7 yards, and a fumble, only 5.8 fantasy points. Week 7 against the Cowboys, who have the second worst defense in the NFL currently. 13 rushes for 33 yards and and 1 catch for -1 yard, so only 4.2 fantasy points. And then last week against the Chargers, 9 rushes for 25 yards, 2.5 fantasy points. Logic tells me that he's the main problem here is injuries, and the Commanders are not being really able to recover from those. And as long as these players keep getting injured, as long as Jaden Daniels doesn't stay on the field, Terry McLaurin re-injures himself, Deebo Samuel injures himself, it's gonna be hard. Jaden Daniels missed 3 games so far this season. McLaurin missed 4. Deebo Samuel missed a game. Larry Tunsil was out last week, their left tackle. It's going to be hard for any running back to get going when a team that they play for has significant injuries like that. It's even harder for a rookie running back, for a rookie, going into the scenario for sure. This week, the Commanders play the Seahawks. The Seahawks are ranked 1st in the NFL so far in run defense. Not a good look for Jacory Krosky-Merritt there. They only allow 75.7 rushing yards per game and only 2 rushing touchdowns this season, which is very impressive in 8 games. I really like Bill Krosky-Merritt. I loved him as the main. He was like my main sleeper going into the draft, but then all the experts jumped in on him too, and then everyone jumped on board very quickly there, especially with the injuries sustained in that running back room with Austin Eckler. I do think that he figures out and will succeed as the Commanders running back 1. But for right now, he has to be a skunk until all those injured players get healthy and they all start producing as one on the team. No way he's going to succeed as the top target for a team as a rookie 6th-round running back. So Bill Krosky-Merritt is a skunk for me for this week. All right. Next, we're going to move on to the next segment. This is called Fantasy Fireworks. Real quick, my buddy Dave, who's usually with me, is not here today for a family emergency, prayers to him and his family. So I'm doing it alone. Fantasy Fireworks, this is basically where I pick a game where I think will produce a ton of fantasy points, just one matchup for the week. Last week, I picked the Giants versus the Eagles. Jalen Hurts had 26.36 fantasy points. Saquon Barkley blew up 35.9 fantasy points. Devontae Smith almost had 15. A.J. Brown was out. He got hurt. So that Rumors are that he's also on the trade block, which is interesting. The trade deadline is November 4th, which is this week, and the Eagles are on bye. So that's definitely something to watch just with A.J. Brown. And then obviously Dallas Goedert. He had 3 catches for 20 yards and 2 touchdowns, 17.8 fantasy points. Eagles put up a ton of points last week. Really, really good, which is crazy because, like I said, their team is not that great when you look at the statistics. But every single week, it doesn't matter. They end up winning. The Giants – Jackson Dart had almost 20 fantasy points, did really well. We talked about the unfortunate injury to Cam Skattebo. Anyone who saw that video, it's really, really bad. And if you haven't seen it, I don't recommend watching it. It's pretty gross. But he still put up 10 fantasy points. Tyrone Tracy, who's going to be the starter there for now, 10 rushes, 39 yards, 7 fantasy points. Wando Robinson didn't have a great game, only 7 fantasy points. And then Theo Johnson, their tight end, 3 catches, 20 yards, 5 fantasy points. Overall, though, the Eagles really put up a good game, so I thought it was a decent matchup. This week, my fantasy fireworks matchup is going to be clearly the Chiefs versus the Bills. Chiefs offense are the 5th ranked total offense, averaging 378 yards per game, and they've had 26 total touchdowns. They're also the 5th best passing and the 9th best rushing, so just really, really good. And that surprised me with the rushing offense, obviously, with their switching up of the running backs. All 3 of them get a share there, which is just interesting that they're still top 10. And their defense is really good as well. Their 4th best defense, allowing only 277 yards per game and 15 total touchdowns. 3rd best in the passing defense and 11th best in rushing. Pat Mahomes is clearly the 1st overall quarterback. 189 of 282 for 2,099 yards, 17 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 46 rushes for 280 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like, he's a beast. He's going to be a beast this week. Kareem Hunt, Brashard Smith, and Isaiah Pacheco all sit right in the 30 to 50 range in running backs collectively. So, if you combine all of them, you have a decent, solid running back, probably 20th in the NFL, which isn't bad. Rashee Rice, as I said, the last 2 weeks has been absolutely electric, and he's just going to continue. 16 catches, 135 yards, 3 touchdowns in 2 games. He's the 65th overall receiver, which is actually crazy that he's already above a lot of other receivers I'll talk about later. Travis Kelce, also top 5, 10, and really good matchup there against the Bills, who 3rd total ranked offense right now, averaging 382.9 total yards and 25 total touchdowns, so just 1 less cited than the Chiefs. 15th ranked passing offense and 1st ranked rushing offense. Their passing offense is a little concerning. They don't have a wide receiver 1 there. They have Khalil Shakir, Keon Coleman, just a bunch of guys right now. They thought maybe Coleman was going to be the guy going into the draft last year when they drafted him, but he clearly has not been so far. But that's okay because they make up with their running back and James Cook, who's absolutely electric. 126 rushes for 753 yards, 7 touchdowns, 12 catches for 89 yards. He's the 7th overall ranked running back, and that's with the bye. Really, really good. Their defense is pretty good too. 12th best defense, only allowing 312 yards per game and 17 total touchdowns. They have the 2nd best passing defense, but unfortunately the 31st best rushing defense. So that's something to watch for sure. The Chiefs running backs might have a pretty good game against the 2nd worst rushing defense. But overall, this team is solid. Dalton Kincaid is still a top 15 running back. This is going to be a really fun game to watch for sure. So my fantasy fireworks matchup for the week is the Chiefs versus the Bills. Sorry, I'm getting something to drink. If you guys have any questions or anything, or just want to comment, go ahead and comment on Twitter. We're also live on YouTube right now on the Inside Edge Network's YouTube. Going into my next segment, this is called the Long Shot Lineup. These are not necessarily sleepers, I would say, but just guys who aren't the top guys, not top 5, not top, whatever, but just guys who I think are going to have a really, really good game, whether it's because of matchup or whatever. So going back to last week with my long shot lineup, it might have been one of the best ones I had for the year so far. Bo Nix, he had 24.7 fantasy points. DeAndre Swift had 15 fantasy points. Jordan Addison was my receiver, 11 fantasy points. Kayshon Boutte I picked, 16 fantasy points. Omari Gadsden, love Omari Gadsden, 19 fantasy points. And then my flex was Chase Brown, and he had 25 fantasy points. That's just a really, really good lineup there. If you had those long shots last week, you would have scored 112.68 fantasy points with this lineup. Pretty good. pretty good, better than my starting lineup on my other dynasty league, which is unfortunate with all those injuries. A lot of injuries this year in the NFL. It's really, really crazy, really sad. Sucks for half of my leagues, and I'm in a lot of them. So, all right. So week 9's long shot lineup. I do a quarterback, a running back, 2 receivers, a tight end, and a flex. So we will go through those real quick. My quarterback for this week for week 9 long shot lineup is Jordan Love. Projected 18.2 fantasy points against the Panthers this week. Last week against the Steelers, 29 of 37 for 360 yards, 3 touchdowns, almost had 30 fantasy points. This week, the Packers play the Panthers. The Panthers ranked 10th in passing yards allowed with 198.4 passing yards per game and 11 passing touchdowns. The connection to Tucker Kraft continues to be special, and it did last week as well. I love the Jordan Love Tucker Kraft connection. Kraft has 7 catches for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns, 34.8 fantasy points. The Panthers may have a decent passing defense. However, they're very bad at defending the tight end this year, ranking 6th from the bottom. They've allowed 44 catches for 528 yards and 4 touchdowns so far to tight ends. That is a match made in heaven when you have a top 5 tight end in Tucker Kraft, which I've been telling you all season. I told you in the preseason, Tucker Kraft is going to be top 5 this year, and he's been showing it for sure. Absolutely, absolutely dynamic. Not to mention the defense has to worry about Romeo Doubs, Matthew Golden, and now Christian Watson, who came back last week and played well, played decently well. Very impressed by him. He had 4 catches, 85 yards, 12 fantasy points for being out for so long, always injured. Questions if he is the true wide receiver 1, and then them obviously drafting their first wide receiver in the first round since I can remember for a long time. Definitely, Denver did that for Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Golden. He was the best receiver on the field for the Packers last week. Also, the Panthers have to worry about Josh Jacobs on the backfield, who's 8th ranked running back so far this season. Jordan Love should have a very good game this week. He's my he's my week 9 long shot lineup quarterback for sure. I really like his projections. Going into my running backs for this week, once again, this is the long shot lineup. This is just guys who aren't really sleepers, not necessarily, but guys who I think will score well and who aren't usually projected as the top. My running back is going to be Tyrone Tracy. Projected, he's the running back for the Giants, obviously going to be the replacement for Cam Scatterbo. Projected 13.22 fantasy points against the 49ers. Last week versus the Eagles, only 10 rushes for 39 yards, 2 catches for 14 yards, 7.3 fantasy points. Listen, Tyrone Tracy was the starter for the Giants last season as a rookie. He's a former wide receiver he was for Purdue, who transitioned to running back his final season. Tracy is a serviceable running back in 2024 as a rookie. Sorry. Still getting over a cold here. The main issue for him was fumbles. 2024, he fumbled 5 times and lost 2 of them. You're not going to continue to be the starter if you're going to fumble the ball or not trusted to carry it. That just doesn't make sense. This year, Tracy started the first 2 games and was very average, but he was splitting snaps with Cam Scatterbo. Then Tracy got hurt and missed week 4 and 5. That was unfortunate for him because that time Cam Scatterbo absolutely, stole the job. Absolutely electric. Tracy lost the starting job there. Then unfortunately for Cam Scatterbo, he suffered the ankle injury last week and is going to be sidelined for 3 to 6 months now. So that is a problem. But that's good news for Tyrone Tracy owners. This is Tyrone Tracy's running back team now. Yeah, Devin Singletary has more experience. He'll be a running back too, but Tyrone Tracy is the starting running back. This week, the Giants play the 49ers, who rank 15th in the NFL in rushing defense. They're allowing 107.9 rushing yards per game and 4 rushing touchdowns this season. There's plenty of opportunity for Tyrone Tracy to succeed in this offense. He just needs to hold on to the ball for dear life. He cannot fumble, or else he's not going to earn the starting job. He's just not going to be trusted. The gift of more touches will only continue if he proves that he can hold on to the ball and not fumble. This year, he has 0 fumbles on the year so far, but with obviously very limited snaps compared to last year because he lost the starting job. Give me Tyrone Tracy as a long shot lineup. I think the opportunities are endless if he buys in. So give me him for this week as my long shot running back. All right, going on to my receiver. I have 2 receivers here. My first one is going to be Zay Flowers, receiver for the Ravens, projected 15.64 fantasy points against the Dolphins this week. Last week against the Bears, Flowers had 7 catches for 63 yards with the 3rd-string quarterback and Snoop Huntley throwing in the ball. The Dolphins surprisingly have the 11th best passing defense in the NFL right now, allowing 200 passing yards per game and 11 total touchdowns this season. Zay started out the season as a wide receiver week one with 7 catches, 143 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, that obviously slowed down as the season progressed. The main factor has obviously been the injury to Lamar Jackson. Lamar has been out since week 4. Lamar has been a full participant in practice today, and I think it was announced that he's actually going to play. That's great news for Zay Flowers. Flowers has been a decent wide receiver given the circumstances at the quarterback position. The weeks without Lamar, he put up 12.7 fantasy points versus the Texans, 8.6 against the Rams, and then 14.1 against the Bears. The Browns looked like a good NFL team against the bad Dolphins defense. So the Ravens should, fit right in to look also like a competent team. I like Zay Flowers as a long shot player, especially with Lamar finally being back. He should continue to be the top wide receiver for the Ravens. With Lamar's no brainer, give me Zay Flowers as my first long shot receiver for this week. Going into my second receiver, he is another one in the AFC North. His name is DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf projected 13.8 fantasy points this week versus the Colts. Last week versus the Packers, 5 catches for 55 yards and a touchdown, 16.5 fantasy points. The Packers have a really good defense, ranking 6th in the NFL, and DK put up really good stats. After 8 weeks, the Colts ranked 29th in passing defense, allowing 252 passing yards per game and 14 touchdowns. DK is ranked 17th overall receiver currently. That surprised me a little bit. He's had a good season and has been very reliable in fantasy so far this season. 27 catches, 461 yards, and 5 touchdowns, a little over 100 fantasy points so far this year. Really good numbers. Still only ranked, 17th, which is interesting. He also has a touchdown in 5 of the last 7 games, which is something to note. He's not only the top option in the passing game for the Steelers, but he's by far their best option on the team. A lot of people are questioning if he's actually good fantasy receiver option or if, the points are front loaded with his 5 touchdowns, especially since he only has 1 game this year over 100 receiving yards. But that's something, that's something to watch for sure. But nonetheless, like I said, he's a top option on that team by far. I mean, Aaron Rodgers loves throwing in the ball, and he for sure is to be talked about as at least a long shot lineup player, especially against the Colts, the team that isn't very good and lacks continuity. The team is very good. They just lack continuity in the passing defense, ranking low in the NFL. I love the Colts right now, though. So give me DK as my second long shot lineup receiver for the week. All right, and then going into my flex. Do I not have a tight end? Oh, I don't have a tight end, so oops, my bad. Going into my flex, I skipped tight end this week. Last week I had Chase Brown as my flex. This week I have Chase Brown as my flex. Projected 13.8 fantasy points this week against the Bears. Last week Chase Brown was listed as my flex in my launch lineup, and this week he'll stay there for sure. Last week versus the Jets, 12 carries, 73 yards, and a rushing touchdown, 3 catches for 32 yards and a receiving touchdown, 25.5 fantasy points. I mean, admittedly, this is a risky pick, clearly. I mean, it all depends on if Joe Flacco is healthy enough to play. Flacco's status for this week is up in the air due to an AC joint and sprain in his throwing shoulder. Even after saying that, I still have a little bit of a regret for picking Chase Brown here, but I'm going to roll with it in hopes that Flacco's good to go. And even if he's not, I think that Brown will still have a good week. I mean, the Bears are ranked 27th in the NFL against running backs this season. They're allowing an average of 143 rushing yards per game, and 6 total rushing touchdowns this season. There's still a lot of opportunity for Chase Brown to succeed, even if Flacco doesn't play. If Flacco does play, it's definitely a no-brainer. Not to mention they have to put in, they have to guard the main focus in the team, who's Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. It's risky. I'm going to go Chase Brown, though, for it. I just hope that Flacco's healthy enough to play. But like I said, regardless, I think he'll do well. So, all right. Grab some water. Sorry, it's hot in my basement today. All right, the next segment we're going on to is called Sleepers and Creepers. So these are, again, just sleepers, guys who aren't really owned a high percentage or maybe on sleeper, or I think are up and coming and you should grab them now. Basically waiver wire picks. Sleepers for last week. Last week my first sleeper was Omari Gaskin, who he was 12% owned on sleeper when I talked about him last week. I told you to get him. I told you to grab him. Now he's 77% owned on sleeper. So a huge jump there. I tried to tell you. I tried to. Last week I said it's safe to say that Gasson was going to take over that tight end room. Even Higbee said that he loves the dude and is just working really, really hard. I actually thought that it had already happened 2 weeks ago. It looks like I was right. He started to heat up, and you better get on that Arande train before it's too late. And last week it happened. Last week against the Vikings, 5 catches for 77 yards and a touchdown. The last 3 weeks, he had 19 catches, 309 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 fumble. 61.9 fantasy points in the last 3 weeks for a rookie tight end. That's electric. That's really, really good. If you didn't listen to me last week, it might be too late. Like I said, he's 77% owned now. If he is a free agent in your league, you need to pick him up. There are still 33% of leagues out there that do not have him rostered. So just go get him. He's a huge stash, and he's been putting up really big numbers the last few weeks. So hopefully you're not a week too late there. And then my other sleeper for last week, I had Cade Otton, the tight end for the Buccaneers, was on 38% of teams on sleeper last week, and now he's rostered by 56% of leagues. So he went up a little bit. Last week wasn't the best performance for him, but that's okay because he's designated as a sleeper. 4 catches for 40 yards against the Saints, 8 fantasy points. Still like him as a long-term option. This week the Buccaneers have a bye that gives the offense another week to continue to get healthy. Emeka Egbuka's been nursing a hamstring injury. Obviously, Chris Godwin's been out. Bucky Irving. Just a lot of players have been out. So give them some time to get healthier, and hopefully that will help Cade Otton as well, because the more of the players on the field, the better the tight end always plays because he has more opportunities to get open. Going into this week, once again, the segment is sleepers and creepers. This week, my first sleeper, Tyjae Spears, running back for the Titans. The Titans team is a mess right now. They just fired their head coach, Brad Dable. Nope. Brian Callahan. I don't know why I said Dable. Right now, Tyjae Spears is owned by 47% of teams on sleeper. Spears was hurt and didn't play until week 5 of this year. In the 4 games that he's played, he's practically had an even snap percentage with Tolly Pollard, the other running back for the Titans, who's supposed to be the starter. This last week versus the Colts, he had 9 carries for 59 yards and a touchdown, 3 catches for 23 yards, 17.7 fantasy points. With Tony Pollard in the way as a starting running back, Spears will obviously have limited production. Excuse me. But since starting to share the backfield at week 5, Pollard has actually looked really, really bad. Not to mention that Pollard has been limited with a neck injury and is questionable this week. And on top of that, he has been named as a player to watch as a trade target. The trade deadline, like I said earlier, is November 4th, which is this week. If Pollard gets traded, then Tyjae Spears will become, the belle of the ball. He's going to be the top waiver pickup. It's worth a stash this week and hope that Pollard gets traded. He's available in over 50% of leagues on sleeper right now. Go get this dude. Low risk, high potential for a huge reward with Tyjae Spears. Go get Tyjae Spears. I was right about Gaskin. Go get Tyjae Spears. I have a feeling Pollard's getting traded. And if so, he's going to be running back 1 on a bad team, so they're going to run the ball. All right. My second sleeper for this week, his name is Zonovan Knight. Goes by Bam. He's a running back for the Cardinals, only rostered 50% of teams on sleeper right now. Bam Knight has led the Cardinals backfield in snap percentage for back-to-back weeks. Not only that, but the Cardinals cut Michael Carter and then put him back on the practice squad this week. He was, everyone thought he was going to be the lead running back there until Trey Benson got back. That is clearly not the case. It looks like it is Zonovan Knight's job right now. So he's the main running back in Arizona. The Cardinals are coming off a bye week, which, they really desperately needed to recover from injuries. Just like I said, there's been so many injuries this year. It's really, really been awful. It looks like Kyler Murray's on track to play this week, which is great news for Cardinals playmakers. It's common sense to have the starting running back for an NFL team on your team, and he's a starter until Trey Benson comes back from IR. This week, the Cardinals play the Cowboys, and their defense is butt cheeks. The Cowboys' defense is so bad. They've been so bad all year. They're ranked 29th in rushing defense this year, allowing 146 rushing yards per game and 10 rushing touchdowns. Go get Zonovan Knight. Just stash him. You can afford to stash him. And then I'll give a bonus sleeper coming off of that. Trey Benson, another guy. Go one further. He's a sneaky pickup that I would actually, try to grab this week in Trey Benson. When Benson comes back, he will for sure be the starter with the Cardinals. I know that goes against a little bit what I said about Zonovan Knight, but Benson's on IR right now, and he's at least on IR for 1 more week. He's only owned in 62% of leagues, so you have a week right now to go snipe him. That's 62% owned in leagues. That's quite a bit of leagues that still don't have him. And he's going to be off IR in a week or two. Go snipe him. So when he comes back, because he's going to be the starter. He's going to start over Zonovan Knight. Zonovan's just a starter right now. He would for sure be a fantastic pickup if your team has an IR spot right now for sure. And if not, he's still worth a stash, I think. You'll definitely thank me later if you snipe him way early for sure. So going into my creepers last week, I guess I had a vendetta against the Titans, Woody Marks against the 49ers, and Nick Chubb against the 49ers. Woody Mark, 11 rushes for 62 yards, 4 catches, 49 yards, 15.6 fantasy points. Pretty decent. And then, these creepers are supposed to be guys who, you don't need them on your team anymore. You can't trust them. I wouldn't start them, maybe even cut them. Nick Chubb against the 49ers, 17 rushes for 56 yards, 2 catches for 13 yards, 8.9 fantasy points. I mean, I was wrong in a sense. I just don't trust. There's some running back rooms that I love that they share a backfield. Gibbs and Montgomery, great tandem. Even, Walker and Charbonnet, great tandem. Woody Marks and Nick Chubb, not a great tandem. I love Nick Chubb. I'm a Browns fan. I'll always have an affinity for Nick Chubb. I have his autographs here, over there. I have a ton of memorabilia in this room, and a lot of it is Nick Chubb as well. But Nick Chubb stinks right now, and it's so sad. He's just a former shell of himself. Nick Fitzpatrick is a dirty, dirty player. I don't care what you say. Dirty player, and ruined Nick Chubb's career. It's just sad to see. So I don't trust that they share the workload. Both of them together just doesn't. It's not a situation I want to be in. I wouldn't want to start them. I still stand by that, even though Woody Marks still had 15 fantasy points. And then my other creeper for the week. Last week I had CJ Stroud, and CJ had a good week actually. 30 of 39, 318 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 7 rushes for 30 yards. Almost 25 fantasy points. I didn't like the matchup at all. I still don't like Marks and Chubbs having to even splits. It's going to definitely hinder maximum scoring potential a lot, week by week. And it's just something that is nothing I want to be a part of. They played decently. I'll give them props. I was wrong last week, but I still stand by it. So this week's creeper, this guy, I hate this guy. Let me tell you this guy. Darnell Mooney, wide receiver from the Falcons. Gosh. Darnell Mooney, he screwed me for the last time. I traded for him last week thinking, Drake London's out. He's going to be the wide receiver 1. He's going to do something. Nope. 1 catch on 4 targets, 11 yards. Dude sucks. He's rostered in 51% of leagues on Sleeper, and that's way too many. And that performance without Drake London, who also missed the game with injury, that's insane. That is insane. I had him as a creeper a few weeks ago, and I went against my own advice, and I started him. And albeit my team was riddled with injuries and buys last week, I needed somebody to start. It was between him and Malik Washington, and I thought the opportunity was there. He's going to do something. He did nothing. Darnell Mooney on the season, only 11 catches for 25 targets for 158 yards, only 26 fantasy points this year after 8 weeks. They play the Patriots this week, and honestly, I don't care at all. Burying this dude so deep, it's not even funny. Not that he needs it. He's 102nd ranked wide receiver right now this season. Rashee Rice in 2 weeks is 65th. That tells you something. This guy's garbage. Darnell Mooney stinks. They got to have mercy on his soul. Cut that bum. Done with this guy. He screwed me. I lost by 2 points because this guy put up 2 fantasy points last week. Annoying. Sorry. And then my second creeper for the week. This is a little controversial maybe, but we'll see. Cooper Kupp, wide receiver for the Seahawks. He's owned by 72% of leagues on Sleeper right now, and that's a lot. The hype is over, guys. He's nothing more than a role player now. He's a 51st ranked receiver so far this season, 24 catches, 293 yards, and only 1 touchdown. And he's clearly the third target on his team behind JSN and AJ Barner, the tight end. Since week 5, he only has 3 catches on 4 targets for 42 yards and a touchdown. He's only a viable piece to keep on their bench to plug in if you're in trouble with buys for a week. Otherwise, you're wasting your time with this dude. I would try to trade him away just based off name recognition alone. He's 32. Hopefully you could get something, just by his name, but he's really not doing anything on the field right now. And if you don't need him for just plug and play for buy, I think Cooper Kupp is a creeper. So I would not have him on my team, especially 72% of leagues on Sleeper. All right, going into the next segment. This is called the Legacy Lineup. This is basically like DFS, daily fantasy sports. I'm going to give my top who I think is going to score the highest. This is obviously not advice. This is just what I think, just for fun. I'll give a quarterback, running back, receiver, and then a tight end. And I will talk about who I picked last week. Last week, I had Patrick Mahomes as my quarterback, 25 of 34 for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 4 rushes for 30 yards, had 24.96 fantasy points. Pretty serviceable. Not the top quarterback, but definitely did justice on your team if you started him. My running back, Jonathan Taylor, smashed this one. I mean, no-brainer, clearly. 12 rushes, 153 yards. 153 yards on 12 rushes is really, really impressive. 2 touchdowns, 2 catches for 21 yards and a receiving touchdown. Had 40 fantasy points. Smash. I picked Emeka Ibuka. I was going off of hype. I was going off of matchup. I was going off of injuries on the team and how he's been playing. He's a 7th-ranked receiver. It's not that crazy, okay? Although he did not play that well. 3 catches on 9 targets, 35 yards, only 6.5 fantasy points. Definitely not somebody you should have started as a wide receiver as your DFS player. I mean, oh well, it happens. And honestly, this is something to watch, but he's been regressing the last 3 games. He's obviously dealing with the hamstring injury, but that's something to monitor for sure. I mean, his points has been going down for sure the last 3 games after an electric start to the season. Still the 7th-ranked fantasy player, still someone you should, have on your team clearly, and hopefully he gets healthier with this bye this week. So, and then my tight end from last week was Tyler Warren. I love Tyler Warren. But he did just have 4 catches for 53 yards, only 9.3 fantasy points. Definitely not the top tight end there. Going into this week, my legacy lineup. Once again, the legacy lineup is just like a DFS daily fantasy points where, I'm going to pick a guy who I think is going to be the top player for these positions. This is not betting advice. This is just for fun. My quarterback for this week, call me crazy, but give me Lamar Jackson this week as my legacy lineup quarterback. I said earlier, it was reported that Lamar was removed from the injury report and he will play against the Bears on Thursday Night Football. A healthy Lamar Jackson against not the Bears, the Dolphins, excuse me. A healthy Lamar Jackson against the Miami Dolphins, count me in. Lamar hasn't played since week 4, so there is a risk factor there clearly. But they say he's healthy and I have to take the word for it. And Lamar Jackson's not playing around anymore. It was reported today that he instructed the Ravens employees to take the ping pong tables, take him out of the locker room, and everything else that is considered a distraction to the team. He also said that they have to play every game like it's a playoff game since they only have 2 wins this season. I'm not sure if this terrible Ravens team will be successful, but I think the Lamar Jackson will be. The Dolphins ranked 23rd in total defense, allowing 344.4 yards per game and 23 total touchdown. Not to mention that the Dolphins made the Browns look like a competent team, which is funny. I'm a Browns fan, so I can say that. Give me Lamar Jackson as my legacy lineup quarterback this week. Real quick, got another comment from Jason Kirk. Trade Doubs, Worthy, and Aaron Jones for Fidel and McLaurin standard scoring. Again, no, I'm keeping Dobbs. Dobbs, the Green Bay receiver right now is questionable. I mean, Christian Watson coming back. They just drafted Matthew Golden in the first round. I still like Dobbs. You guys got to check out the photo of him with his the Guardian cap on. they're going with the retro style helmets this week, and it just looks goofy. I'm not making fun of it. I'm glad he's wearing it. He feels safe in it, so that's cool. But it just looks funny. So go check that photo out. Once again, the question was trade Dobbs, Worthy, and Aaron Jones for Fidel McLaurin. Yeah, I'm not doing that. Aaron Jones, still a good running back in the NFL. Jordan Mason last week had a dud of a week too. So, the opportunities are endless. Ty Johnson also is on IR now. So it's between Jones and Mason, and I think Jones might take it over again as long as he stays healthy. And Worthy, I said again, is a very serviceable second receiver. Vidal I like, but Omar Hampton is coming back very soon. It was reported it'll probably take longer than the 4 weeks that he was put on IR, but he still will be coming back from his ankle injury. And McLaurin, like I said, his setback this week, we have no idea when he will be back because he just re-aggravated his quadricep injury. So keep Dobbs, Worthy, and Jones. I would not trade for Vidal and McLaurin. Going back into the if anyone wants to comment or ask questions, go ahead. Appreciate Jason. Ask more. I appreciate it. But going back into my legacy lineup, my quarterback was Lamar Jackson. I'm going to go to my running back now. His name is Jamar Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs is the running back for the Lions. Everyone knows Gibbs is the 6th ranked running back this season so far. And that is after the bye that he just had last week. I mean, in 7 weeks, Gibbs was outstanding. He had in week 7, Gibbs was outstanding. 17 carries for 136 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 catches for 82 yards, had 40 fantasy points. On the season, Gibbs has 104 carries, 526 yards, 6 touchdowns, 26 catches on almost 200 yards, and then a receiving touchdowns. And that's while splitting with David Montgomery. Like I was talking about earlier, splitting, running backs. Some rooms are really great with splitting, some are not, and this is one that is. This week, the Lions play the Vikings. The Vikings rank 24th in the NFL in rushing defense. They allow an average of 134 rushing yards per game, but only 5 touchdowns on the ground this season. I do really like Gibbs coming off a bye and playing the back half, rushing defense. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have a really good week. I think you should play him for sure in a legacy lineup for week 9. Duh. Going on my receiver here, I just have a receiver and a tight end left. My receiver for the week is Jackson Smith-Njigba. JSN took DK Metcalf's wide receiver role and ran away with it. Absolutely ran away with it. I mean, are you surprised? Dude's a Buckeye. Enough said. All the Buckeyes and bobbleheads back there. He has 50 catches for 819 yards and 4 touchdowns in 7 games. I mean, not to mention those sweet 155 fantasy points so far this season. So you have a beast wide receiver who had the week off of rest and is playing a team against the Commanders, who are, is absolutely riddled with injuries. The Commanders have the 26th ranked passing defense, allowing an average of 244 yards per game and 15 touchdowns this season. JSN's going to eat this week. Start him. Don't be a fool. He's going to be so good. And then finally, my tight end for the legacy lineup, Trey McBride. You should see a trend here. Nearly all the players that I selected so far have been on a bye week last week. And are coming off a nice restful week to just heal up. And Trey McBride is no exception there. He is rested and ready to go. And so hopefully is Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison coming off the concussion. He played, but still, that team has been riddled with injuries as well. Like I said earlier, this is the year of injuries. Trey McBride also put up really good numbers literally in every single game this year. He's ranked at the 3rd overall tight end so far this season, even after his bye. 47 catches, 424 yards, 4 touchdowns, 113.1 fantasy points so far this year as a tight end. Absolutely insane. It's crazy to say, but he's a top target on that team, even with Marvin Harrison Jr. as a wide receiver 1. As I mentioned earlier, the Cardinals are playing the Cowboys, who just have a god-awful defense. The Cowboys ranked 31st in the NFL. They've allowed 20 passing touchdowns this season. They've also allowed 46 catches for 415 yards and 2 touchdowns, 2 tight ends this season. Trey McBride, this is a match made in heaven. There's a lot of opportunity for Trey McBride to dominate this week with or without Kyler Murray. I do think Kyler's playing, and that's going to be better, but even without him, he's going to dominate. He's definitely my tight end this week for my legacy lineup. And then finally, I'm just going to go over the top sleeper waiver additions this week. The top guy was Chimere Dike, wide receiver of the Titans, added 1 million times, now is 81% owned. Devin Singletary, the running back giant for the Giants, 838,000 times, 55% owned on sleeper. Tank Bigsby was next for the Eagles. Eagles are on a bye. Obviously, Saquon had that groin injury. Added 622,000 times, 67 or 70. Sorry, it's getting late now. Apparently, 76% owned on sleeper. Then Kareem Hunt added 619,000 times, 86% owned on sleeper now. Jake Bates, the Lions kicker, he was just added because the Lions were on bye last week. You don't have usually just drop your kicker and pick up another guy when he's on bye. Added 588,000 times, 80% owned. Tyron Tracy added 505,000 times, 96% owned now. Tyler Loop, the Ravens kicker, they were on bye as well. 367,000 times, 79% owned on sleeper. Brandon McManus, the Packers kickers, lots of kickers. I won't do those anymore. Added 356,000 times, now he's 32% owned. Tyler Show is going to be the Saints starting quarterback over Rattler. So he was added 306,000 times, 70% owned on sleeper. Might be a good addition to pick him up just because it's the starting quarterback in the NFL. You can't really go wrong usually unless they play for the Browns. Then finally, Kyler Murray, Cardinals QB, added 306,000 times. So he is now 95% owned on sleeper. And then going on the drops real quick, drops for sleeper this week. I'll skip the kickers. Top one was Darnell Mooney. Screw Darnell Mooney. He screwed me over too many times. Falcon receiver dropped 399,000 times. Still 90% owned on sleeper. way too much for him. Second was Cade Otton, Buccaneers tight end, 395,000 times, 87% owned on sleeper, too high for him as well. Kirk Cousins was third, dropped 350,000 times, still at 58% owned on sleeper. Marvin Mims, Broncos receiver, dropped 340,000 times this week, 87% owned on sleeper. He has not done much so far this year. Joe Flacco has been dropped, obviously that concerned with his shoulder injury. 332,000 times, still 86% owned. Jerry Jeudy absolutely sucks and should not be in the NFL. He's been dropped 314 times, 96% owned on sleeper. That's insane. Let me bring up Jerry Jeudy's numbers. I'm sorry. I'm a Browns fan. I'm pissed off. Jerry Jeudy. Oh my gosh. Ready for this? 22 catches, 257 yards, no touchdown, 66th receiver in fantasy right now as the Browns wide receiver 1. Harold Fannin Jr. is the Browns wide receiver 1, the rookie tight end. That shows you how bad Jerry Jeudy is. He also has the most drops in the NFL right now. Jerry Jeudy sucks. Get him off your team. He's owned 96% on sleeper. That is insane. He sucks. Sorry. Going on, Isaiah Pacheco, Chiefs running back, dropped 292,000 times, 97% owned on sleeper. He's got injury concerns, so I can see that. Matthew Golden dropped 256,000 times, 98% owned. Brashard Smith dropped 255,000 times, 84% owned. And then Kenneth Gainwell dropped 251,000 times, 85% owned. I mean, surprising that Pacheco and Brashard Smith was dropped. I mean, that is a three-headed running back room that really no one has taken over. Just because Kareem Hunt did okay last week doesn't mean that he's going to be all of a sudden the RB1 on that team. I still expect them to share. I really like Brashard Smith. I'm surprised he was dropped that many, or by that, 255,000 times. He's really, really a threat catching outside the backfield. And I eventually think that he might take over that role, especially with Pacheco being hurt now. We'll see. I don't know. But I would not have just dropped both of those guys with that running back room, especially with Kareem Hunt and Pacheco being the old guys and relatively injured, to Smith being the not injured and young rookie. All right. We actually didn't have any FMFT this week, so I am finished, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. 138 of you guys today. Really, really appreciate you guys being here live. Shout out to my co-host Dave. He'll be back next week. Like I said, he's dealing with a family emergency. I won't get into it, but prayers to him and his family. I'm close with his family, so it's sad. Love them all. So thank you so much for being here. This has been the Commissioner Cast podcast. My name is Ryan Mosser. I just want to give a shout out to our sponsors real quick. Inside Edge Network and LVP Productions and MosserMomentsPhotography.com, MOSSOR momentsphotography.com. Go book them. They're awesome. Cleveland-based photography husband and wife team. We'll see you next week live Wednesday at 9 o'clock every single Wednesday. Really appreciate you guys and have a wonderful night. Thank you so much.